What's up? We're back. It's the Magic Minds. We got Evan. We got Jack.
Hi.
We got Finn.
Hey, guys.
We got Caleb. It's our second episode, and if you remember, if you watched our last one, we did our wheel of deck types, and we rolled mill, self-mill. So that's what our theme is for today's episode. And if you remember, the points were I had 3 points, and Jack had 1. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. Caleb, you got the first deck tech.
Okay, so today for my mill self-mill deck, it's kind of a combination of mill and self-mill. I wouldn't call it either one. I made the Mimeoplasm. The Mimeoplasm is a 2 green, blue, black for a 0/0 legendary creature ooze. As the Mimeoplasm enters the battlefield, you may exile 2 cards from graveyards. If you do, it enters the battlefield as a copy of one of those cards with a number of 1/1 counter, additional +1/+1 counters on it equal to the power of the other cards. So this is really like you can make it self-mill or mill because it says from graveyards. So it's not just your graveyard, you could do opponent's graveyards too. I made this deck mostly for getting stuff out of your graveyard. I feel like it would be a super fun commander to make, and I chose it because the ability to copy things from opponents' graveyards seems really powerful, and just some of the things you can do with it with other cards are amazing. So, the spotlight cards, we'll call them that, in my deck are...
Yeah, we're each going to have 3, I think. They're like the best cards, I think.
One of them is Fact or Fiction. Fact or Fiction is 3 and a blue for a instant. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library. An opponent separates those into 2 piles. Put 1 into your hand and the other into your graveyard. So this card is just a really, really good card. But in a self-mill deck, you're wanting to get stuff into your graveyard. You're like going to be able to choose what you want in your graveyard. It's really, really good.
Yeah, it kind of removes the downside that comes with the card's already good anyway. It's a kind of a commander staple, but it seems like it kind of removes the downside of their opponent being able to choose, because you can either way. You if it goes into your hand or if it goes into your graveyard, it's gonna always gonna be like it's gonna give you it's gonna generate some value for you. Right? Let's say that.
Yeah,
That's true.
Mm-hmm. So another one of the spotlight cards is Splinter Fright. It's green and 2 for a star creature elemental with trample. Splinter Fright's power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in your graveyard. At the beginning of your upkeep, put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. So this, once you've been milling for a while, you might be able to just knock somebody out with this because it's going to get so big in a self-mill deck. Yeah. And then the ability of, at the beginning of your putting the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard, that's just very, very good. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems cool.
So the third spotlight card in this deck is Zoom, which is 1 black for an instant. Search your library for a card and put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. Which is, in my opinion, might be one of the best cards in Magic. It's so good.
Yeah, because it's 1 mana.
1 mana.
So cheap.
Well,
you can do that and do
too.
other stuff in the same turn.
Yeah. Obviously, the 2
Yeah, I agree.
in your hand are a bit better, but it's super good. It's like around $10 though. So,
Yeah. Compared to like
then
Vampiric Tutor, which is like 80 or something.
Yeah. Then I have Life's Finale, which is 4 black, destroy all creatures, then search target opponent's library for up to 3 creature cards, and put them into his or her graveyard. Then that
Ooh.
player shuffles his or her library. This is
That's so
probably
good.
Ooh.
because, like, you get to search, you destroying all creatures, which gives you a ton of options of stuff to copy with Mimeoplasm. Then you get to put more cards into a player's graveyard. So that's just so good. I think you'll maybe sometimes even be able to win after playing this card and casting the Mimeoplasm off of commander damage. Like,
Yeah.
copy two very big things.
Yeah. I mean, it also is kind of like a combo breaker. So if you're playing a combo player, you just find their combo pieces and just stick them in the graveyard. Even if you aren't using it exactly for Mimeoplasm, just like stopping someone's fast combo will give you time to catch up against like a better or more expensive deck. So that's also a bonus.
Yeah. I'm also another really good graveyard tutor is Buried Alive. It's 2 and a black for a sorcery. Search your library for up to 3 creature cards and put them into your graveyard. Then shuffle your library. So it's 3 mana for 3 creature cards. It's like Entombed, but 3 times more mana and 3 times more cards. So this might, in this deck, be even better than Entomb, because you're getting enough stuff to be able to copy 2 things with the Mimeoplasm early, and maybe
yeah.
So that
That's
card
really good.
is that's really good. Like, you could, if you search for the right things, like, that could maybe kill somebody, because obviously in this deck you'd be running a lot of Eldrazi's giant creatures. So I also have Gerard's Orders, which is 2 black-green for a sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 creature cards, reveal them. Put 1 into your hand and the other into your graveyard. Then shuffle your library. So this card, I wouldn't say it's as good as the other graveyard tutors, but it's 1 into your hand and 1 into your graveyard. So if you want to have an actual creature card, like maybe Modrotha, to get lands back from your graveyard that you milled, you could put that into your hand and then get another one into your graveyard. So it's more flexible than the other ones, and in some ways I'd say better. Yeah. So, and then most of the time with those graveyard tutors, there's some really good cards that I'd be tutoring for. One of them is Blighted Agent, which I think a lot of us were running in last week's episode.
Yeah, I for one was.
I
It's a
was
great
too.
card.
Blue
Same.
and a white for a 1/1 infect, and Blighted Agent has unblockable. So that's really good, because you'd be probably copying that with Mimeoplasm, not putting the 1/1 counters. So, and then you also have another one is Simic Sky Swallower, which is 5 blue-green for a creature Leviathan, 6/6 with flying trample, and it can't be the target of spells or abilities. So if you play, say, Buried Alive, and you search up Blighted Agent and Simic Sky Swallower into your graveyard, then copy them with the Mimeoplasm, then you have a 7/7 flying trample infect unblockable.
Yeah, that seems really good. And it seems kind of important for your deck to get like Shroud or Hexproof on your creature, or maybe even Indestructible, because that's gonna, because obviously Mimic, I mean not Mimic back, Mimic, I mean Mimeoplasm. Sorry, that took a while. Mimeoplasm is going to be a huge target when it comes down, because it's going to be some huge, I don't know, half Eldrazi, half infect thing. So it's going to be
Yeah.
such a target. So protecting it is going to be one of your top priorities, I think.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
can't speak
like-
today.
And Simic Sky Swallower does that.
Yeah,
and
I
then
mean,
if
like,
you-
one good thing is that, like, you can take the cards that normally wouldn't be good because they're just so much mana and just use them as literally, like, just +1/+1 stuff. It's like the big 9/9 green one that's, like, 9 mana from Ixalan that's, like, unplayable. In this deck, you could run it. Wait, does it have green in it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you could run that, and it would just, like, be a really good thing to pump your Mimeoplasm.
Yeah, if you got that, like, I'm running some Eldrazi. If you got a Eldrazi and Bladed Agent, you're
Oh
gonna
my god.
have Infect.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I think Bladed Agent's super powerful in this deck, and so is Simic Sky Swallower.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that wraps it up for me. Jack, would you like to go?
Yeah, so the commander I made for this episode was Hogaak, Arisen Necropolis.
I think it's
Um,
Necropolis.
Oh, okay. Well, so it's 5 and either black or green, and it's a 8/8 legendary creature avatar, and it says you can't spend mana to cast this spell, and then it says it has Convoke and Delve, and so Convoke is each creature you tap while casting the spell pays for 1, and then Delve is each card you exile from your graveyard pays for 1. So you can cast Hogaak by using Convoke and Delve, and tapping creatures. And then it says you may cast Hogaak Arisen Necropolis from your graveyard, and then it has Trample. So what I want to do with this deck is to get cards into my graveyard and then use my graveyard to cast Hogaak. So my spotlight cards for this deck. So one of them is Gravebreaker Laminia, which is it's 4 and a black for a 4/4 enchantment creature, Snake Laminia. It has lifelink, and then it says whenever Gravebreaker Laminia enters the battlefield, search your library for a card, put it into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. And then it says spells you cast in your graveyard cost 1 less to cast. So it's just a good addition because when it enters the battlefield, you can put a card into your graveyard, and that helps you cast Hogaak. And spells you cast from your graveyard cost 1 less to cast. So this is just a really good card for my deck. And then one of my other spotlight cards is World Shaper, and it is 3 and a green, 4 mana for a 3/3 creature Merfolk Shaman. And it says whenever World Shaper attacks, you put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. And then when World Shaper dies, put all land cards from your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. And
Wow, that seems really good. Because
yeah,
it's milling you, and you're gonna want to have your land cards from your graveyard. Like lands are of no use to you in your graveyard, so you can later on like sacrifice it or something and get all your lands back. So that seems like a great double use.
yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to get lands, but like Finn said, if I just have like lands in my graveyard from milling, then then they go to use.
Yeah, just an
and
added bonus.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then my third spotlight card is Gerard, Golgari Lichlord.
So
And Gerard is 4 mana, black, and green for a 2/2 legendary creature zombie elf. It says Gerard Golgari Lichlord gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. And then you can pay 1 black green, sacrifice another creature, Each opponent loses life equal to the sacrificed creature's power. And then you can sacrifice a swamp and a forest. Return Gerard from your graveyard to your hand. This card is really good because from World Shaper or lots of cards in my deck, we're going to be milling myself. And so I'm most likely going to have a lot of creatures in my graveyard to pump Gerard. And then in addition to that, you can deal damage to an opponent by sacrificing creatures, which puts creatures in your graveyard, which gives them more power. And then just the addition of sacrificing a swamp and a forest to return them from your hand can be good. And when you're sacrificing those lands, you can get them back with World Shaper too.
Yeah, sometimes that can just be an insta-kill to someone.
Yeah. So now for some of the other pretty good cards, not quite Spotlight, but good cards in the deck. One of them is Perpetual Timepiece, and this one is a 2-mana artifact. You can tap it to put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard, and then you can pay 2, exile Perpetual Timepiece, shuffle any number of target cards from your graveyard into your library. So the ability just to tap it in top 2 cards, milling yourself. The second ability is not super, doesn't really go with the deck as well, but it could if you wanted to put the cards back in your library or something.
You're gonna mill yourself out, maybe.
Yeah. It's a good safety button to have, just in case. Yeah,
I
if
guess.
you're playing a mill deck too, that's great. So against the mill deck.
And then another good card is Underrealm Lich, and this is 3 and black green, so 5 mana total for a 4/3 creature zombie elf shaman. And then it says if you would draw a card instead, look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put 1 into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. And then you can pay 4 life. Underrealm Lich gains indestructible until end of turn. Tap it. And so this card is really good because if you would draw a card, that's like every turn. You're drawing a card every turn. So you can really fast get cards into your graveyard for other uses. So yeah, that's a good one.
Wait,
and
is
then
it on your draw step, or can it be any card you draw?
it says if you would draw a card. So
Wow,
yeah.
so like card draw spells can just mill you for a bunch too. That seems cool.
Yeah, and it's not just cards into your graveyard. You can also get stuff in your hand too. Like this one. And another good one. I think it's the one that Caleb had. It's Entomb, and we've already read it, but it's 1 black mana for an instant. Search your library for a card and put that card into your graveyard, and shuffle your library. So yeah, it's just really good for me.
Deck.
Yeah, any self-mill deck getting cards into your graveyard. And it's not just a creature card, it's any card, so it's good.
I feel like it's probably a bit better in my deck.
Yeah, it probably is, because I'm not like really trying to get tons of creatures into the graveyard.
Yeah,
but
if you have any sort of recursion, that card is great. So
yeah,
it's
I agree.
Really good in any self-mill deck to get more creatures into your graveyard if that's your target. And with Hogaak, it is, so it's still a good card in your deck.
And another card that I thought was pretty good, maybe not one of like the best cards, but it can go in the deck. It's Eternal Witness. It's 1 green, 3 mana for a 2/1 creature human shaman. And then it says whenever Eternal Witness comes into play, you may return target card from your graveyard to your hand. So it's just getting cards. It's not super good because that's all it does. but it just gets a card into your hand when you play it.
Well, actually, so I think this is actually pretty good in this deck. Well, obviously, Eternal Witness is a kind of a long time commander staple, but there's been some debate in the commander community, I guess, or just among players is Regrowth, I believe, is the card, which is a 2-mana sorcery, which does the same thing as Eternal Witness. I think Eternal Witness is actually better in this deck because Eternal Witness is also a creature. So, and Hogaak needs creatures to tap to cast him because you need to fulfill that 2 colored mana. So I think that's actually really good in your deck compared to other cards like Regrowth or I'll look it up. But go ahead, you can continue that.
Okay, and I think that is it for my deck for cards. So yeah, on to
Okay.
Seems like a
Me.
good deck, Jack.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'll be the first one to admit I'm not really a mill player. I don't know a lot about mill. So the first thing I thought was Persistent Petitioners. That seems fun. So Persistent Petitioners is the main goal of my deck, even though it's not my commander. So what Persistent Petitioners does is it's a 3/1 for 2 mana, 1 and a blue. It's a creature human advisor, and you can pay 1 and tap it. Target player puts the top card of their library into their graveyard. And then you can tap 4 untapped advisors you control. Target player puts the top 12 cards of their library into their graveyard. And the big piece is a deck can have any number of cards named Persistent Petitioner. And obviously, Persistent Petitioner is an advisor. So you can tap Persistent Petitioners to mill people. So 12 is like a lot.
Any Persistent Petitioner?
Like a 10th of your deck or more.
Yeah. I mean, I have like 29 Persistent Petitioners in the deck, which is like, I think pretty good. So that's almost like a third of the deck. So pretty sure you'll get some.
I'm intrigued. What commander did you build around for Persistent Petitioners?
Yeah, so in the end,
Yeah.
I was looking around, and I decided that Tulane, Teller of Tales, was the right commander to build around. So what Tulane does is it's 2, a green, a white, and a blue for a legendary creature human druid. It's a 2/4 with vigilance. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card, then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. And then another text, which isn't really relevant for this deck, is 3 and tap it, return target creature you control to its owner's hand. So this just is like really an engine that just helps you keep getting more Persistent Petitioners and just keeping on ramping. It just helps you get your Persistent Petitioners, more of them, and more consistently early. And I just decided that was the right fit for this deck. So I was looking around on EDHREC, which, like we said, is what we use. And at first, I wasn't sure if it was actually going to be that good of a deck. I knew it would be fun no matter what. But the more I looked, it's actually kind of broken. And there's so many cards that are good that I have a lot to read today. So the first one is Murkfiend Liege, which is 2 and Simic Hybrid, 3 Simic Hybrid. So you can go green, blue, or green, blue. And it's creature horror, and it says other green creatures you control get +1/+1. Other blue creatures you control get +1/+1. And the main line of text for this deck, at least, is untap all green and or blue creatures you control during each other player's untap step. So
wow, that's good.
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
So, like, let's say you have even just 4 Persistent Petitioners. You can tap them, deal or mill someone 12. You can untap them, tap them again to mill someone 12. Every single turn you can do that. So that's like,
Oh my god, that is so good.
double, triple, quadruple up the mill. And it's a 4/4, so it's not a small creature. It also buffs your Persistent Petitioners, which it makes them so that they have 4 power or toughness, which isn't little, so they're not the easiest things ever to kill. Yep, so that one is really good. And then another card that's like that, but arguably better, and is a spotlight card. Oh, by the way, Persistent Petitioners was a spotlight card. Like, it's the main goal of the deck, so yeah, it's a spotlight card. This one is Intruder Alarm. It's 2 and 1 blue for an enchantment. creatures you control don't untap during their controller's untap step. And whenever a creature comes into play, untap all creatures. So that is any person's creature comes into play, untap all of everybody's creatures.
That is
So-
broken.
Oh my god, that is so good.
So broken in Persistent Petitioners.
Yeah. It helps your opponents a little bit, but it helps you way, way more. Because just like you play a Persistent Petitioners, you untap every single one of them. You can tap them, mill someone, play one more, and all that time you're drawing cards through Tulane. So it's
Wait,
just really good. Yeah.
no, it couldn't go infinite, but that's just
No.
really good.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
goes infinite with a lot of stuff, but not
Yeah.
this.
not this. It
I'm
just
thinking-
goes
that's not
very
the
good
goal.
with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like, what was I gonna say? Whatever. Okay, I think that is it for Intruder Alarm. So the next card is just another one that kind of combos more with Tulane than Persistent Petitioners. It's Tatiova, Benthic Druid. It's 3, a green and a blue for a legendary creature, Merfolk Druid. It's a 3/3, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life and draw a card. So it's more card draw, except the card draw is off the lands that you're going to be playing with Tulane, because there's quite a few of them in this deck. I think 38 lands, which is pretty good. And it also gives you a little life buff, so just a little more life to gain. The next card is really a card that'll help you speed up your mill quite a bit, which is Psychic Corrosion. It's 2 and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. So, I mean, that's every turn you draw to start your turn. You do that to everyone. And then every time you play a creature, which there's a lot of, because there's a lot of Persistent Petitioners, you get to draw a card off Tulane and therefore mill people more. So,
Yeah, that seems a good, like, because I mean,
That's so synergistic. That's a lot of synergy with Tulane.
yes, it does. Okay, so now we have quite a few ways to cheat in Persistent Petitioners to just get more of them and overwhelm your opponents. So it's not just 12 you're doing each turn, it's 24 or 36. So this one is Double Enchant. It's 5 and a green for a sorcery. And it says, for each creature you control, you may search your library for a creature card with the same name as that creature, put those cards onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So,
ooh, wow.
Oh my god. That is good.
you
For that
double
deck.
the number of Persistent Petitioners you have, and like that's just so good. But the only downside to this is it doesn't trigger Tulane, but it will trigger Intruder Alarm because they're entering the battlefield. So next one I have is also a way to cheat out some more creatures, which is Wild Pair. It's 4 green for an enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, you may search your library for a creature card with the same total power and toughness and put it onto the battlefield. If you do, shuffle your library. So I love this card. It's one of my favorite cards because it's inexpensive and it's so good. So you get 2 Persistent Petitioners every time you play one, which is really good. And then it's totally crazy with Intruder Alarm because you can stack it so that you play your 1 and you untap everything. You can tap them again. And then the Wild Pair triggers, you get another one which taps and untaps it again. So just so much synergy and
Wait,
really good.
could you do Intruder Alarm with the last card you mentioned, the one that I forgot the name of it already. It's the
Double
one
Enchant?
that searches up. Yeah, Double Enchant.
Yeah,
Could you
it
do
does,
Intruder Alarm with that?
Well, what happens is they all come in at the same time.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's like you get to do it once, which is why Wild Pair is so good because you get to do it every single time because it's like a little offset and you get to stack the stack. So yeah, okay. Next card is Allure, which is 2 green for an enchantment. Any player may play creature cards with converted mana cost 3 or less without paying their mana cost and as though they had flash. So that's just
Wow.
really good because Persistent Petitioners only cost 2 and you're still casting them technically, so it still triggers True Lane, so you're still drawing cards. And Flash is really good, and like people don't know you have more Persistent Petitioners, and you can just wait until they're about to do something, play a bunch. Wait, they don't have haste, so you can't tap them all, but still, like as blockers or something.
Do you have anything in there that's giving the Persistent Petitioners haste? Because I feel like that would be pretty good if you
I
could
don't
do
think so, because I'm not running red. So I think that would be good, and I might think about that. But this card is probably maybe even better than Intruder Alarm. There's also a Spotlight card. It's called Thrumming Stone. So it costs 5 mana. It's a legendary artifact, and it says, spells you control have Ripple 4. Whenever you play a spell, you may reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may play any revealed cards with the same name as the spell you played without paying their mana costs. Put the rest on the bottom of your library.
Wow.
This is like,
That seems.
so it ripples
Oof.
off the ripple. So if you play one Persistent Petitioners, and in those 4 cards you find another Persistent Petitioners, you play it so it triggers the Thrumming Stone again, and it ripples more. And every time you're drawing a card off True Lane, and as I said, about 1/3 of the deck are Persistent Petitioners. So it's not unlikely that you could go off for like 5 Persistent Petitioners just off this one card every time you play one. So
that card's really good, but it's like $40.
really good. Yeah, it's an expensive card, but I'd be crazy not to put it in the deck. And next one's my last 2 cards. So these ones are kind of about saving you from people board wiping. Because, I mean, that is one downside to this deck, is if someone board wipes all your Persistent Petitioners, you could be screwed. So the first one is Eerie Interlude, which is 2 and 1 white. It's an instant, and you can exile any number of target creatures you control, return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So that's really good because it can save them from board wipes, and it untaps them. So you can tap them all, and then someone decides to swing at you because you're getting them low. You can play Eerie Interlude to untap them all and save yourself. So, yeah. And then my last card is like almost as good. It's probably better than that. It's Angel of Glory's Rise. It's 5 and a white, so a pretty hefty mana cost. For a creature angel, it's a 4/6 with flying, and when it enters the battlefield, exile all zombies, then return all human creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So Persistent Petitioners are humans, so you can just like get all of them back. And another tricky thing you could do with this is if you know you have this in your hand, you could hit yourself a couple times with the Persistent Petitioners, maybe put like 24 more cards in your graveyard, but then you play this and you get all the Persistent Petitioners from there back onto the battlefield for even more mill.
Wow, that's
I didn't even
that's-
think of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
like hitting yourself with persistent. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
And like there is like the Jace that when you run out of cards you win the game. So there are things that allow you to self-mill, but this deck is more geared around milling everyone else. So, yep. That's it for my
And
deck.
I do
It's
have
just
a little
so
rules,
broken.
a little rules interaction. Persistent Petitioners doesn't need to have haste to tap because the ability is tap for untapped advisors you control. So it doesn't physically have that tap symbol, which means that you can. It's not the Persistent Petitioners tapping themselves. It's they're being tapped by another source. So which means that they don't need haste. You can bring them out and then just instantly tap them.
That's
that seems-
crazy. Yeah, that makes it even better. Like Eerie Interlude, that means you can untap all your creatures and then tap them again, like if you just need that final hit. Okay, well, thanks, Finn. You just made my deck better.
Yep.
And now it's your turn.
You're welcome.
So,
Okay, so the commander I made, I kind of challenged myself not to use green or blue. So I made
That sounds hard.
Alesha, who smiles at death. It's an interesting name. So it's 2 in a red for a legendary creature, human warrior. It's got first strike and no, don't worry, it's got 2 more colors. Whenever
Okay.
Alesha, who smiles at death, attacks, you may pay 2 mana. It's 2 hybrid white or black. So 2 mana total. If you do, return target creature card with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, tapped and attacking. So this deck is unlike some other self-mill decks where it's a little bit more aggressive and not quite as heavy as like on the value and stuff. And obviously it doesn't have blue-green, so yeah, that it's not going to have nearly as much value because blue-green is just so good right now. Anyway, so the goals of the deck are to put some cards into your graveyard with some of those red discard effects and obviously self-milled. And then we also want, Alesha has first strike, but she's only a 3/2, so we want to give her some evasion so she can get in and attack without having to worry about like dying or getting blocked or stuff. And then you want to recur with Alesha, and then the cards we want to recur, we want to like recur on multiple times, maybe sacrifice them and then bring them out again. So we're gonna want them to have good ETB effects and attack effects and stuff. So I'm just gonna move right into my top cards, my spotlight cards. So I'll move. First one I have is Key to the City. It's my first spotlight card. 2 colorless mana artifact. You can tap it to discard a card. Up to 1 target creature can't be blocked this turn. And whenever Key to the City becomes untapped, you may pay 2 mana. If you do, draw a card. So this is great. So first of all, you can tap it to discard a card, and make our commander unblockable. So we can swing in with Alesha and not have to worry and get her activation cleanly. And
that discard also helps.
Yeah,
right?
we can discard and drop in a big threat, and then our opponents won't see it coming, and we can just swing in and unblockable and just start like taking people out with that.
Wait, so what kind of things are you putting in with like Alesha? Because it's like 2 or less, right?
Yeah, so there's some, you wouldn't think of it, but there's some crazy powerful stuff. So
Okay.
my other spotlight card is Master of Cruelties. Oh boy, this is a nasty one. It's 3, a black and a red for a creature demon. It's got first strike and death touch. It's a 1/4, so we can get it back with Alesha. And Master of Cruelties can only attack alone. And whenever Master of Cruelties attacks a player and isn't blocked, that player's life total becomes 1. Master of Cruelties assigns no combat damage.
Oh.
But it says it can only attack alone, so you'd think that we couldn't really kill somebody with it because it won't deal damage even if it is unblocked. But there's a catch because Alesha brings back the creatures tapped and attacking, so they're already physically attacking. So it doesn't. The Master Cruelties doesn't register that it's not attacking alone because it's already attacking. And obviously the
That's
first strike death
good.
touch is good. And then if we have somebody like with no blockers, obviously Alesha's a 3 mana card, so if you can swing with her on like turn 4, then you can like kind of catch people off guard because I mean not every deck is gonna have blockers out on turn 4, so we can swing with Alesha, pay the mana, and bring back our Master of Cruelties, who if he isn't blocked, I will make our opponent's life total with that's 1. Master Cruelties himself won't deal damage, but Alesha will if she's unblocked. So we can that's a turn 4 kill right there, like right out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a nasty. And obviously we can bring him back whenever we need to.
So
because we have some sack outlets in this deck too.
yeah, one bonus about Master of Cruelties also is that the death touch and first strike, right?
Yeah.
So that allows it so even if it is blocked, it's not gonna die and it's gonna just eat the other person's creature. Because the way that works is it kills them before they can even touch you. So it doesn't matter that he's so small, he's still just gonna eat whatever their biggest thing is.
Yeah. And then another good card, this isn't one we want to recur, but it does help us in some recursion in case our commander dies. It's Dusk, and then it's one of those aftermath cards from like Amonkhet. So it's Dusk, and then you can cast it from your graveyard as Dawn. So Dusk is 2 white for a sorcery. Destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. That's already good because most of our creatures are power 2 or less. So that's going to be sort of like a one-sided board wipe for us. And then, even better, 3 white for a sorcery, which Dawn. Aftermath, you can cast a spell only from your graveyard, then exile it, and return all creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. So that is just great. I mean, we can say our commander's killed a bunch, maybe it's a target, we do have some protection, but if we don't get the protection and our commander, if we really need to, then we can kind of just play. Obviously, we don't want this to be our main strategy, but it's a good thing there that we can get all our cards back and then get all the threats out again if we really need to.
Yeah, that seems like a good addition to the deck.
Yeah, it's very versatile because it's got the board wipe and that.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna move on to some of my other cards. A good value card is a Mentor of the Meek. So it's 2 and a white for a creature human soldier. It's a 2/2. So we can get out with Alesha, but we're not exactly trying to do that with this card. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield with power 2 or less, under your control, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card. So obviously, most of the creature cards that are entering are gonna have power 2 or less. So we're gonna play this out, and we'll be able to draw some cards and only have to pay 1 mana. So that's gonna trigger. And obviously, with Alesha, the creatures are coming back out of the graveyard and entering the battlefield. So we're gonna get triggers off that. So that's great. Additionally, we got Gonti, Lord of Luxury. This is an interesting one. Didn't really notice it when Kaladesh came out, but it's actually quite powerful in these kind of decks. It's 2 black for a 2/3 with Death Touch. And when Gonti, Lord of Luxury enters the battlefield, it's got a lot of text here. Look at the top 4 cards of target opponent's library. Exile 1 of them face down, and then put the rest on the bottom of that library in a random order. For as long as that card remains exiled, you may look at it, and you may cast it. And you may spend mana as though it were any mana of any type to cast it. Whew. So it's got a lot of text there, but basically what it does, it hits. We get it out with Alesha, we hit with it. We can exile some of their cards. We choose one that we kind of have in our store to play later. So that's good card advantage. You can take some big threats off your opponent's library, and we can do that multiple times. And it's also got Death Touch, so it's not really incentivizing your opponents to block it. So that's great. This deck, incidentally, just has a bunch of great tutors. So there's Recruiter of the Guard and Imperial Recruiter. They both do basically the same thing in different colors. Recruiter of the Guard is 2 and white for a creature human soldier. Enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a creature card with toughness 2 or less, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So you can find some of our, obviously, not all of our creatures have toughness 2 or less, but a lot of them do, because they're small, so we can put them into our hand and then discard them, or find a way to put them into our graveyard. So that is a great one. And then there's Imperial Recruiter.
Wait, how big is it?
The Guard is a 1/1. And then
Yeah, so you can also bring that back with Alicia, right?
Yeah, and with the ETB effect, we can grab the more creatures. And then Imperial Recruiter is even better. And as battlefield, search your library for a creature card with power 2 or less, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So, and I forgot to mention that it's 2 and a red, not 2 and a white. So this is even better because almost all of our creatures are going to have power 2 or less. And he's also a 1/1. So this one's really good because you can bring him back and grab like basically any creature in our deck. So that's great. And then
with the red one, you can grab Master of Cruelties.
Yeah. And then another kind of interesting one is Mind Claw Shaman. So this is a pretty interesting card, and I've never used it before, but I think it's really cool and it deserves a bit more credit than it gets. It's 4 and a red for a 2/2. And when it enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals his or her hand. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell from that player's hand without paying its mana cost. So that's great. I mean, we can start exploiting our opponent's hand, especially if you're like up against somebody, you know, they have like an expropriate or something. So that can be really, really powerful. So that's just good value. Another one I haven't talked about, many mill cards. So this is a great one. It's pretty simple. Stitcher Supplier. 1 black mana, 1/1 creature zombie, enters battlefield or dies, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. So this is great. We can play it out maybe on turn 1, put some cards into our graveyard. If we got a sack outlet, we can also sack it to get more cards. And then with Alesha, we can bring it back, and it'll get the ETB trigger again. We can mill some more cards. Maybe it dies in combat, or we can sacrifice it again. And so it just gets a good engine of being able to recur it, then sack it, and then mill 6. So that seems really good. And it's a 1/1. So, and then another good mill card we have is Altar of Dementia. It's 2 colorless mana for an artifact. You can sacrifice creature, target player puts the top number of cards equal to the sacrifice creature's power from the top of the library into your graveyard. Now, this isn't like super good as it is in some other decks, but this is still great because we can sack our creatures. It's a good sack outlet, and we can put some more cards into the graveyard. And even though they're not going to have the hugest power, like putting 1 or 2 in anyway, along with a free sack outlet for only 2 mana is just a great value. And so that, I thought that was really good for self-mill and just that in general. And then our last card I have to talk about today is Mirror Entity. It's a good win condition, and it's a good surprise card. So if we can, I'll just read it first. It's 2 and a white for a creature shapeshifter. Like most shapeshifters, it's got Changeling, which means it's every creature type, which we don't really care about. But you can pay X mana, and until the end of turn, creatures you control have base power and toughness XX and gain all creature types. So this is good. Obviously, Mardu doesn't have too many like big pump spells like, I don't know, Overwhelming Stampede or Craterhoof Behemoth. So this can act as kind of one of those to help us win. Or it can also be used kind of as a surprise card. So if we can discard this instant speed or right before combat, we can swing in. It'll come back to the battlefield, and we can pay, like, I don't know, dump 7 or 8 mana into this, and all of a sudden my board of like 1 or 2 power creatures is now, they're all now 8/8s. So that can be like a good surprise attack, and you can take some people out with that. So that is it for my deck tech. It's a pretty cool deck. I like it. It's pretty fun. I was gonna build a deck similar to it, Gyrus, Walker of Corpses, but I like this one better. And yeah, I just really like it. It's cool.
I would not expect
So yeah,
self-mill deck to be that good, but you made it happen.
It was definitely a challenge finding self-mill without green. So
yeah, also you don't have like the blue things that like reward you for milling your whole deck that allow you to win the game if you do that. So
yeah. So yeah, that was a little bit of a challenge, but I think I'm pretty happy with how it turned out.
On to the voting. So I think same order. I'll go first with my voting. So for powerful, at first I didn't think Persistent Petitioners would be so powerful, but after Evan talked about Intruder Alarm, it's just that's just so powerful. So I think I'd gotta go power level to Evan with this Persistent Petitioners deck, mainly because of how good Intruder Alarm is.
Yeah. Okay, Jack, you want to vote?
Yeah. I guess next. So I will I think Finn's deck was. I think Finn's deck is probably for me the most powerful because never thought that like red would and black and white would be super good for self mill, but you found a way to do that, and the way you did it was really good, and it seems like a fun and powerful deck that could easily win you the game, especially with
Master of Cruelties.
Master of Cruelties. That one is just so good
Yeah,
in that
spicy.
deck. I know. So I'm gonna go with Finn here. On to Evan.
Okay, well, I think I gotta go with the Mimeoplasm deck, because just like that quick, like infect unblockable big creature just seems so good, and it also just seems like the fact that you can use whatever other people's big creatures for your deck just seems like so good. So yeah, I'll go with the Mimeoplasm for my vote.
For me, it's a tough one. A lot of powerful decks out there. I thought Jack's was solid. Definitely an interesting one. Caleb's was pretty cool, but in the end, it pains me to give Evan another point, but I have to vote for Evan because, oh man, Thrumming Stone and all that stuff, it's just powerful. And then that neat synergy you did with milling yourself and then getting your petitioners back. And one thing I liked about how you did it was you chose Tulane as your commander, which is great because it puts you in green, blue, and white, which are great things. You got like the Merc Fiend Liege, and you also got like stuff like what's that one that untaps your stuff? Seedborn Muse, that's it. So you have a bunch of good value stuff with that. So I like what you did with Tulane, which is an inevitably powerful commander. So that just ramps up the power level. So I gotta say Evan is the most powerful. So Evan got 2 votes. I got 1, Caleb got 1, and Jack got none. So Evan gets another point. So he's at 4 points now. I'm just gonna mark that down. Now we can move on to the creativity/uniqueness. So
should we go backwards? So Finn, you can go first, and then I'll go, and then Jack, Caleb.
Sure.
Okay.
So for me, I think I have to go with Evan again for the uniqueness. I think just because tackling persistent petitioners and, like I said, when you won power level, those neat combos you did, like just obviously with the what's it called? I always forget the name of that one. The one that finds more persistent petitioners from your deck and puts them on the battlefield.
Oh, doubling whatever.
Yeah, doubling
Doubling
wave.
chant.
Yeah, doubling chant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that was just like really cool. So yeah. So go ahead, Evan.
Okay, so I think I'm gonna give it to Finn because like it's just really like interesting and creative how he how you just like made it so that you can take all your little creatures and make something so good out of it with using self-mill. It just seems really, really creative and interesting. And it was a close for me between that and Caleb for power, but I think that one is definitely more creative. So, Caleb, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll go next. Switch up the order instead of Jack. So for me, it's also got to be Finn. Like making self-mill in Mardu is like your deck was also very powerful. It was pretty close between you and Evan, and it's just I feel like it's even more creative because just Marty self-mill.
Yeah, it was definitely a big challenge. I'm just looking through my deck. Oh, dang, my phone just rang. I was just looking through my deck, and there's not too much self-mill in there, but I also had to include some a discard package. But I think with the recurring value, I think you can get enough mill in there. It was definitely a little hard. And so yeah, I also put in a discard a little bit of it. You know, like how red has all those discard synergies with wheel effects and stuff. So I put a lot of those in, and so yeah, that's how I built my deck.
Mhm. Yeah.
I liked your guys' deck though.
Yeah. Well, Evan.
Okay, Jack, who do you think had the most unique / creative deck?
Well, I gotta say Finn again because just finding a way to not use green or blue, which are like Evan said, like blue is like main for self-milling, like milling your opponents and you. So I just thought it was cool, like you finding a way without using red. I mean, with using red, white, and black, which aren't primary colors for self-mill. And the deck seems really powerful, like I said before.
Okay, so now we have
So
the
I got 1 point
mini
from that.
segment.
Finally, I'm on the board. Yeah, now make or fake. So, you want to go first?
Sure. So, for me, my deck is literally a make. I'm actually making it in real life right now. I feel like it's a super cool and fun deck. So, yeah, for me it's a make. As for other people's decks, I'd say the only other one that I'd be considering making would be Jack's, because though it wasn't as powerful as all of ours, it seemed pretty fun to play. Like Finn's and Evan's yours both seemed kind of expensive to make. And we're kids, we don't have all the money in the world to spend on Magic. So, what do you think?
Yeah.
Evan?
Okay. Should I go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I like love this deck. It seems so fun, but as Keel said, we don't really have that much money, and I don't have too much money right now. And there's some expensive cards, like Thrumming Stone is pretty expensive. So are most of the cards that are good in the deck. So sadly, it's a fake.
Oh.
Okay, I'll go, I guess. So for me, I chose this deck because like it seemed pretty interesting, but I'm not like a self-mill player. I don't like really like self-mill. I mean, like it's fine. So for me, it'd be a fake because I mean there wasn't a ton of expensive cards, but it's just not my kind of deck to build. I'd rather build something other than self-mill. So it's a fake for me.
Okay.
My deck, I really like the synergies. I thought it was really cool. I think it's cool. Powerful, probably. And I actually don't think I'd make it either. Like I definitely make it, but the tuners are a big part of it, and those are, like Evan said, some of the cards are pretty expensive. So I think it'd be a fake also. So is that no makes today? It's not really good.
I was a make.
Yeah,
Oh,
Keel
you
was
were?
a make.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
He's like already starting to make it. He
One
likes
more-
it so much.
yeah, one more question before we move on to the next segment. Which do you guys think is better in EDH? Self-mill or mill?
Self-mill, definitely.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Because 4 people with 100 cards, or no, 3 people with 100 cards, that's 300 cards, which is kind of a lot. So
Like, if you're going combo and milling people for infinite, I feel like combo decks that do that might be more powerful than combo self-mill decks that use Labman. But
Yeah,
as
because
for just like casual decks, I think self-mill's much more better.
yeah, because Evan said before, well, there's also that there's like a Jace that I forgot which one, but I think it's like Jace Cunning Castaway or something.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Oh, it
That's
isn't.
the experiment.
I'm on it. I'm on it.
Okay, well, it's one of the Jaces, and if you have no cards in your library, you win the game instead of losing the game. So, self-mill is much easier because, like Evan said, it's only 100 rather than 300, which is a lot less than
Yeah.
everybody. So
Okay.
it'd be
Yeah.
So I
It's
think-
Jace. It's Jace Wheeler of Mysteries from Warrior.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I think
Okay.
that about wraps it for this segment, right?
On to the
Okay.
custom card segment.
Yep, custom cards.
Okay, so this is our custom cards segment. So Jack, you want to read your custom card first?
Yeah. So my custom card was Aerocrax Potionborn, and it's 2 green blue for a 1/4 legendary creature 8 mutant, and it has haste, and it says whenever Aerocrax attacks, draw 2 cards, then discard a card, and then it has a new mechanic called Toxic 2, and it says whenever you draw 2 or more cards, each opponent discards a card. The reason I made this card is I thought it'd be cool to have a mechanic that links with his first ability, drawing 2 cards. So what I want to do is attack with him, and he obviously has haste. Attack with him, and so you draw 2 cards, and then you make each opponent discard a card. So yeah, I think this card would be good for Magic because it's an interesting card, and I don't see a ton of these cards around. So yeah.
Yeah, that definitely seems pretty interesting and cool. As for me, I made a Planeswalker. It's Barden, Traveling Warlord. So it's 3 red, 5 mana total for a legendary Planeswalker Barden. His static ability is damage can't be prevented. And it's got a plus X, so you can choose the value of X. So you can choose how many loyalty counters you want to put on him. Create an XX red giant warrior creature token, and Barden deals X damage to you. And then he's also got a -10 until the end of turn. Creatures you control gain trample and lifelink until the end of turn. And its starting loyalty is 2. So I thought
That's
that would
really
be
cool.
I thought that'd be kind of interesting. To introduce like a plus X, so you can kind of choose how many loyalty you put on there, but at kind of a cost. So I wanted to introduce that so maybe other Planeswalkers could use it. It just seems cool. And then the -10, I kind of put in a little link there. It'll make your creatures trample on lifelink, so you can pay like 15 life or Barden will deal 15 damage to you if you make a 15/15, and then you -10 him, and you get a trample lifelinker, so then you can gain it back if you need to. So that is quite powerful.
I feel like it might be a bit broken.
Yeah, I agree.
Plus
Because-
X. Because
I mean, yeah, because like plus X and carrying an XX giant warrior.
I
because-
feel like the damage it's dealing to you isn't a big enough downside to level it out.
The warrior doesn't have trample, and you need to take like 8 or more damage just to get an 8/8.
Well,
Yeah, but
yeah.
Finn, like all you need is an 8/8, and you have a 10/10 lifelink. Trample. So
With the ultimate?
yeah, with the ultimate, because if you get 8, and he already starts with 2, so that's 10.
Yeah,
that
and you're
means-
basically you're kind of gaining that life back with the ultimate. The life that you lost, you're gaining it back with the ultimate.
But it's
Yeah,
still
but
really
you have to wait a turn.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
still a really
anyway,
good
should
card.
we move on?
Yeah, let's move on. Seems
Okay.
like a very fun card.
Yeah, I agree.
So, my card is Zabix, the Chosen One. It's 1 green, red, white, blue. So 5 mana in total for a legendary Planeswalker Zybex. It's a mythic, and Zybex the Chosen One can be your commander. It has 2 abilities. Its first one is +2 Proliferate, and its second one is -4 until end of turn. Each Planeswalker you control may activate its loyalty abilities an additional time. And it starts with 5. So, like, I was kind of thinking that, like, most Planeswalker decks aren't really piloted by Planeswalkers. But, it's a Planeswalker deck. So I decided to make a Planeswalker that could be the commander for your Planeswalker deck.
Yeah,
Yeah, that seems really cool.
It seems like
That
cool.
seems fun.
And I think the addition of making her starting loyalty 5, so you can immediately either do the Proliferate, which puts counters on your Planeswalkers, right? Or do the -4 if you want. So I think that's a really good card. And especially to be your commander too.
I think that's powerful, but not like broken in a Planeswalker deck. And I think it's a good leader because it's got multiple colors, so you can get a lot of different Planeswalkers. It's got a proliferate thing and a specific Planeswalker ability, and I think that's great. And it's also a Planeswalker too, so it can help out by having one extra Planeswalker in the battlefield.
I agree that it would be kind of cool to have like the leader of your Planeswalker deck be a Planeswalker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so now onto my card. My card is Worldly Blaze, which is Phyrexian red, which is you can pay red or 2 life. For an instant, you can choose 1 or more. Pay 1. The first one is pay 1 life. Target creature gains haste until end of turn. The second one is pay 3 life. Target spell gains shroud until end of turn. And then the third one is pay 5 life. Target creature gains unblockable until end of turn.
Oh, that's interesting. So you can pay a bunch of life and then give your creatures various effects using that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds like an interesting card. And like, especially if you're playing like a deck that has a lot of life, you wouldn't mind taking 5 life or something to use those abilities on your creatures.
I personally like the flexibility of not having to pay any mana at all if you don't want to, and paying life. And I think Magic Wizards should have more. Phyrexian mana instead of regular mana, because it seems like a fun effect and might be a bit underused. Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
I actually really agree with that, because like sometimes during games I'm like, oh, I don't have enough mana to cast this spell, just like 1 less mana and I could do it. And if Phyrexian was there, then you could pay 2 life if you wanted, and then you wouldn't have to pay for that mana. And I just feel like it's better than, or maybe not better, but like, I don't know. But it's just a cool ability, and I agree. Magic doesn't use it a ton.
Yeah,
Okay,
seems
so
good.
on to the voting.
Okay. Jack, you want to vote first?
Sure. I have to say Caleb probably. So his card, because like we just had this discussion, I think his card is good because like rather than paying mana, you can like the versatility. If you don't have enough mana or don't want to pay it, the versatility.
Jack, I think you mean flexibility.
Yeah, flexibility. Not paying mana, but paying life instead, because it's just a really all-around good card.
For me, I'm gonna go with Finn. At first, I thought it might be a bit OP, making that big thing, but it seems like having an X plus effect for your Planeswalker. I've seen X minus effects, but I've never seen X plus effects, and I think it's pretty creative and fun.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm going with Finn.
Okay.
I'll go next. Is that cool?
Yeah,
yeah.
that's good.
Okay, so I like Jax, but I feel like it's more of like a red card because it has haste and it's doing some looty stuff. So I think I gotta go with Finn because I think like that'd be really interesting to have on a planeswalker and like an interesting like just thought process of like how much you want to pay. It's kind of like the one where you can like pay an amount of life and make an XX that's like an artifact. But this one you're able to gain the life back too. So you can like pay more while staying in a safe zone. But there's a turn where you might not like be safe. So it's interesting that way.
Mhm.
Okay, my turn. So I like Caleb's because I agree with Caleb. I think it's really interesting and cool how Magic has the life as a resource thing, and they even have it in mana cost. But I think Caleb's does a tiny bit too much for having to pay, like, because obviously in Commander you have 40 life. I think Caleb's does a lot for having to not pay any mana, which is always a little bit risky and powerful in some decks.
But, like,
So I have to go with Evan, I think, because I just like his Planeswalker general. I think that's a cool idea, and I like both of its abilities, and I think it slots really well into Planeswalker decks. So it seems cool. So I like that.
Okay,
Okay.
I think that wraps up this segment.
so Evan or Finn won that.
No,
one.
Finn got that win.
Yeah, let me see. Evan got 1 vote, I got 2 votes, and Caleb got 1 vote. So
Finn gets another point today.
No, he's only gotten. Oh wait, no, yeah, he's gotten 2.
so Jack, you want to start us off with the pack opening?
Sure. So just so you know, I got Guild of Ravnica. And so our uncommon, we have Flower and Flourish. And then we have Swath Cutter Giant. And then Rampaging Monument. Okay, and then my rare is Assure and Assemble, and it's hybrid green-white. For an instant, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. That creature gains indestructible until end of turn. And then Assemble is 4 green-white, 6 mana. It's an instant. Create 3/2/2 green elf, green and white elf knight creature tokens with vigilance. And then a Boris Guildgate.
So Finn, what's the price for that?
The price for that is 13 cents market price.
Okay. So now onto mine, and I don't know if you noticed, but Jack only read the names of the uncommons and the ability of the rare. I'm gonna do the same.
I mentioned that earlier.
Yeah. So my first uncommon is High Alert, then Sky Tether, Spire Mangler, and then my rare is Glass of the Gidpact, which is 2 for an artifact with multicolored creatures you control get +1/+1.
I'm checking prices right now.
I don't think that's a lot.
TCG
though,
player
'cause-
market price.
Not great. Not a great card.
The market
No.
price is 20 cents.
What do we have?
20 cents, so I beat
20
Jack.
cents.
Okay, Finn, do you want to go next?
Sure. I have War of the Spark.
Wait, 1 second. Persistent
Yeah.
Petitioners. One of my commons was Persistent Petitioners.
Oh, nice.
So I'm pretty sure that's worth something.
I'll
We're
check
not
it.
counting
If it's worth it-
commons
it's-
for
if it's-
value.
if it's over
No,
$2, then we'll count it.
How about $1?
No,
Oh yeah, actually I know. It's like 79 cents.
Yeah.
I'll just check it anyway. It's 62 cents.
Okay.
So. Okay. I'd War the Spark, so hard to open.
Struggling getting it open.
There we go. So, through the commons. Oh, hey, I got another Dovin's Veto, Grateful Apparition, Arlen, Voice of the Pack, which is my Planeswalker. That's like one of those werewolf, like tribal things. Oh, and my rare is Storev Devarkin Lich. 1 black, green, legendary creature, zombie, elf, wizard. Whenever it's got trample up to 5/4. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, return target creature or planeswalker card in your graveyard that wasn't put there this combat. Okay, that's interesting. I'll check the price. I remember this one not
And
being
then after
like,
that,
too
I'll be up last.
impressive in this one. Yeah, it's only 28 cents.
Wait,
Okay.
At least I'm in third right now. I mean, I'm in first right now. So
Yeah,
Evan.
yeah. Because commons don't count. Okay, so I'm gonna open in mine. Here we go. Straight to the uncommons. So for our uncommons, we have Skullknocker Ogre, Joust, an Inspiring Veteran, and our rare is Sorceress Spyglass. It's 2 mana, and as it enters the battlefield, you may look at an opponent's hand, then choose any card name, and activated abilities of sources with the chosen name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. So,
That
how much is it worth?
27 cents.
I would like to protest that I should win because of Persistent Petitioners.
No, but
No, we
commons
decided
don't count.
beforehand commons don't count. So, Finn gets that point, and
I believe.
looks
I'm
like
gonna
he
check
made a
the
big
store
comeback.
by 1 cent, I
Oh.
believe. Yeah, 1 cent. Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
that's crazy. Well,
Okay, just updating
the
the
last
points right
thing we
here.
have to do. Okay, so the last thing we have to do for our episode today is spin that wheel to see what we're gonna build next week.
Okay.
Yeah. So Caleb, go ahead
Okay.
and spin the wheel.
So let's give this wheel a spin. See what our next thing will be. And it has landed on Group Hub.
Oh
Ooh,
man,
that's
What
gonna
is-
be tough.
Can't tell.
Wait. Never mind.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting to build around. I'm excited and a little nervous about that. So let's review our winners and wrap up. So the points at the end of this episode. Well, first of all, I got 3 points this episode. And
1.
Evan got 1. So
And
the points
I
at the end
got
of this
another
episode.
big fat O.
And
And
at the
I
end of this
got-
episode, I have 3, Jack has 1, Caleb has 0, and
0.
Evan has 4.
So,
Sitting in the lead.
and on a note, we will probably be continuing to bring content to you guys once a week because our school just got canceled for the rest of the year. So until around then, if all goes as planned, we will be making videos once a week.
Or
'Cause we don't-
trying to if we can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's about wraps. So
Oh,
see
and
you
also
next time,
sorry.
and keep magic on
Um,
your mind.